yeah. So I got the email saying, yeah, you're gonna play Saturday night at Anthrocon. And I was like, all right, where's Anthrocon?
So this is gonna be episode 2 of JTTV. I am JTwusky, and many people may know me for the Twitch community for my vrchat streaming. I usually stream Monday through Friday around 4 o'clock PM Eastern Standard Time. And today we have a special guest. For episode 2 is UltraPup. UltraPup, can you introduce yourself to the viewers?
Sure. So, as you said, my name is UltraPup. I go by Jake and Ultra, respectively. I am a full-time DJ for a living, furry as well. Not so much to tell about me other than really just a musically inclined furry who likes going to conventions, who's based out of Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia.
Nice. Yeah, I would say I'm also fairly musically inclined as well, because one of my favorite things to do, I love singing. So I didn't know if you knew that. I don't know if AV told you, but yes, I do sing. It's one of my favorite things because music is like a really big part of my life as well. So you said you're a DJ. So what made you decide, I want to become a DJ? I really like it or something,
Sure. So, music kind of runs in my family, right? So, the first big influence on me was my dad was a DJ at Studio 54 back in the day. The disco, the Studio 54. And so part of growing up was listening to mixtapes and things that he would make, and that's kind of where my love for music started. And then throughout my teenage years, I kind of developed an interest in music, but didn't know if I wanted to pursue it fully or not. And I kind of just dabbled in it here and there, on again, off again. But ultimately, around the time I graduated from high school, I decided that I wanted to pursue making music and becoming a DJ. I didn't really fully embrace that until I'd say I was about 23. I was just kind of coming back from living in Florida, and I don't want to say I wasn't happy with my life, but I wasn't really, where I wanted to be, right? Like I was 23, 24, and something just felt like it was missing. My grandma had just recently passed away, and I wanted an outlet for me to express myself. So I figured, why not give DJing a try? So I bought some equipment, dabbled with it. 2018, someone gave me a chance to mix at a club for the first time. It did not go incredibly well because most people think that like everybody's first time at a club is just like the spectacular experience, but usually first time performances are rough because you don't know what to expect, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so I ended up doing that. The person who booked me wasn't impressed, but a different promoter who was there was. They took me under their wing, taught me some things, got me some CDJs, and then 2 years later, now I'm doing it all over the country for a living. So it's definitely was the first reason. The second reason, and this is the bigger one, is I I have autism, right? It's a lot of people that know me know that I'm high functioning autism and that
Mhm.
I'm non-binary and I don't really fit the mold of what is considered a normal, person, right? In terms of what the expectation is. So I wanted to find something that I could truly put my own spin on, and for me that was music because it opened up doors for me to basically entertain people and go to the clubs, which I liked doing, but it separated me from being around a bunch of people because I wasn't overstimulated because I'm in the booth. So I got to
Yeah.
do two things that I loved. So it was really a combination of all these amazing things that came together to encourage me to go for that path.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I have ADHD, and I can totally understand. I mean, like, not the same level as you, but like, I can get overwhelmed too. Like, I also have like some anxiety as well. So like, singing for me is also like a really great way to like express myself through like my voice and stuff. So that's like really awesome that you incorporated that aspect of your life and putting it into your music, and like it like you enjoy what you do and stuff. So that's like really awesome. So for sure. Um, so like, what other ways has like music been like a part of your life, and how has it like affected you as a person?
So one of the weirdest questions I get from people is that because I'm a DJ who plays circuit music, for a living. Most people just assume that's all I listen to all the time. Like, no, apparently I'm just not supposed to have any other music taste other than what I constantly DJ 24/7 to entertain people, which, believe it or not, if you don't know any DJs, that couldn't be further from the truth. Most of the time we hate listening to stuff that we mix when we're not mixing because we have to do it so often. But yeah, like for me, I'm a very big into punk rock music, and I'm very big into emo style music and just rock in general. So music for me has always been a big part of my life. Like growing up, getting bullied a lot, music was an outlet. So I would oftentimes express myself through music or through listening to music. Music helped me get through a lot of rough moments and rough times in my life, and it continues to do so. But it's also been present for a lot of happy moments in my life. A lot of times when things happen in my life, they get associated with a song that just happens to be going on around that time. So, like when my grandmother passed away, she was a big Bruce Springsteen fan, and so am I. So there is a track by Bruce Springsteen called "No Surrender," and basically anytime it comes on, it immediately triggers thoughts of my grandmother. So for me, music it's a universal language, right? So no matter what language you are natively speaking, everybody can understand music. And even people who are deaf or blind can understand music because of the rhythmic patterns. So if you're at a club, right, and you are deaf, you can feel the vibration to the music from the speakers, which allows you to basically be entrenched in the experience. So it really is a universal language. No matter whether you understand the words or not, you can be in part of this collective community, right? And that's something that you can't really do with anything else.
Yeah, like if whether like you're impaired in some shape or form, music still can be uh meaningful regardless of those impairments and things. So I definitely agree with you on that, because a really good example of that is there was like this documentary I watched growing up in like my music class where people with Alzheimer's disease, when they're exposed to music that they used to listen to growing up, it actually brings back old memories of their childhood or like the point in their life that song was released, which really shows like how powerful just a simple song can be for someone, whether you can remember, like, you have Alzheimer's or autism or ADHD, or you're deaf, you're blind. Like, it's just so crazy and how powerful music can be for someone. It's just amazing. It's such an expressive and beautiful thing.
And that's part of why I became a DJ, right? Because what I get to do for a living is I get to give people these moments and these experiences. When people walk into a club and you're going into DJ, you don't know what's going on in their day life. You don't know what happened before they got there. You don't know what they're bringing into the club. But what you do know is that for the 2 hours, 3 hours, however long it is that they are there with you, you have a moment to take away whatever that was and give them some relief and give them a chance to just get lost in the music. And that is something that, for me, being able to give people therapeutic, whatever you want to call it, is something that I take great pride in, and something that it drives me to continue to do that. Like, I've walked in the clubs when I felt terrible, but I know that the people that are coming, they're coming to get away from whatever, or to enjoy whatever's going on. They want to have a good time. So I've oftentimes have to remind myself to set aside that in order to put on a show. So that's a whole thing that, like, you got to keep in mind, and that's what's really cool about what I do.
Do you get into like you're like a character of some sort, because you have a Sona, of course, like I do. Do you have like a character that you get into like when you DJ?
Yes. So, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. Thank you for asking. So, um, a lot of people assume that DJ Ultra and Jake slash Ultra the person are the same, but we could not be we could not be further from the truth. So DJ Ultra is very confident, and sometimes people would say egotistical, and very much so very much so trying to get himself geared up and very talkative and very outgoing. And I'll come back to that in a minute and why that is. But actual Jake is very quiet, very reserved, doesn't really talk to a bunch of people outside of his circle, is just this very different person, has a lot of anxiety, is not confident in the slightest. A lot of people who get to know me sometimes are surprised by just how different the two things are. And the reason for that is um if I and this is for all artists really, but if I go to a promoter and they ask me, why should we book you for this event? And I don't convince them that I'm the best DJ they've ever seen walk through the door, even though I know there are people better than me. If they don't believe that I believe I'm the greatest at what I do, they're not going to book me. You have to have a level of confidence that encourages people to believe that you believe in yourself, right? So
Yeah.
in reality, I know that there are DJs extremely more talented than I am because they've been doing it longer, and that it just comes with time. But I can't walk into a club or into an event when I'm about to DJ and be like, well, everybody else on the card is 10 times better than me, so, oh well. Like, you can't go in with that mentality. So part of the problem is when you have anxiety and you have self-esteem issues, I have to overcompensate for that. So when I'm in DJ mode, I have to put on this more or less persona to basically get myself through it, because otherwise I would cripple under anxiety.
Which is understandable. I mean, like, then you have a lot of people that out there that are like better than you in some ways. Like for some, like even for me, like I criticize myself all the time because I also make mistakes. Like even when I sing or like just music in general. Like it's a very competitive field to want to engage in and be a part of. So that's pretty interesting though, like, 'cause, like getting into like a character and stuff. I feel like that's a really awesome way to do it too though, because like you can just be whatever you want to be as that character and stuff. So it's kind of a fun and creative way to express yourself, and even through your music too. Like what kind of genres of music do you like to like DJ?
I like to DJ a lot of things, but I'm most known as a circuit DJ, which for lack of a better term is just like LGBTQ rave music. It got its start. It's very much so based in Brazilian carnival tribal drums, and it's become very popular. But around 70s, 80s, 90s, they were underground raves like Red Party, Purple Party, things like that, where it was a culture where it wasn't exactly acceptable to be open and having these LGBT parties. So it's very much so based in that style of music. So that's what I'm most known for. But a lot of people don't know that I got my start playing at bathhouses, playing tech house music at bathhouses. Like that's partly was my first gig, because you gotta start somewhere. And you talk to professional DJs, and a lot of them have stories like this, where this was just the place I could get in and practice. And sure, I didn't get paid a lot to do it, but it gave me a chance to practice. And I guarantee you, nobody in there cared what I was playing, but it was a chance to practice in front of a live crowd, which you could only get through experience, which is partly why we started Lobo.
That's okay to It's okay to start small too, because like at least with that, like you at least have some experience in some shape or form. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a huge like concert right off the bat. So it's a great way to like get like a feel of what it's like to do this, and then from that experience figure out how ways to improve, so that when you actually do a big like performance or something, it won't be as like nerve wracking, I guess I would call it, because you're just already used to like the like what the environment's gonna be like already. Is that what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, so like, you know, um, as I worked my way up, I started at bathhouses, then I started playing smaller gay bars that weren't really clubs, but that had a DJ booth. And I worked my way up until finally I got a gig that I had been working towards at a DC club called Soundcheck, which is a club that's housed people like Tiesto, Martin Garrix. So a lot of the big name DJs have played there. In fact, my furry sticker is inside the booth with all of their stickers. So if you
Oh
ever
my
go in the
god.
booth at Soundcheck, you just see all these professional DJ stickers, and then you see my furry face like in the middle of all of them. Uh,
Aw.
so so there's a whole story behind that. But so when I finally got there, yeah, like having played a lot of other venues, I appreciated it more, but also I was prepared for it. Doesn't mean I didn't have nerves. I was incredibly nervous. I mean, my God, the entire day my friends were like literally trying to keep me from like freaking out. But yeah, like it definitely helped prepare me for the eventuality of playing in front of people. And that's again something that just comes with playing crowds, regardless of the size. You learn to read crowds by playing for crowds, no matter how big or small they are.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really cool though. Oh my gosh. So like all the big name people and now you. Do you think you see yourself
Yeah,
do you see yourself being one of the next big DJs out there like them?
so like in my field, like I am very much so in the tier of professional DJs in my field, right? So as far as circuit DJs go, there are mainstream well-known ones, and then there are a tier below them, a tier below them. It's kind of a tier system. I
Mhm.
am well known enough as a circuit DJ now where people know who I am, but not quite to the point where I'm an international megastar yet.
Yeah.
But I'm exactly where I want to be at this point in my career. I've only been DJing for 2 years now, and I picked it up very quickly, but I am exactly where I want to be. I've played a couple. I was supposed to do a festival this year, but it became a virtual festival.
Mhm.
So as far as like being known, yes, I as far as circuit DJ promoters go, they do consider me in the professional versus semi-professional or amateur level of what I do.
That's really impressive. And you said only 2 years you've been doing
Yes,
it?
yeah. So
Wow.
I
That's
played my first gig in 2018. That was when I started. So
that's very impressive. Oh my gosh. So you said a virtual event? Is that for like the furry conventions? Is that related to furry conventions, like the virtual like ones that have been going on these past couple months? Because we had like a bunch already. Like we had Anthrocon was in VR. I think that was in June. I think it was in June, right? Or June or July. I think because obviously with COVID and stuff. And then there's Virality. And there's other ones. So you said like a while ago that like when we talked prior to meeting this for this interview that you had some form of role in Furrydelphia.
yeah,
Is that related to that?
yeah. So in terms of my furry Delphia and furry life in general, you know, I'll just give you some backstory. Most people don't realize I wasn't a furry until 2019. Like that, in fact, I wasn't really even a furry by choice. I kind of got drafted into the fandom.
Drafted.
Um, yeah, yeah, like the fandom kind of just claimed me is kind of how this went down. So to keep the long story short, because I don't want to take up too much time with the story, but
Mhm.
in 2019, a bunch of my friends asked me to apply to DJ Anthrocon. I was not a furry at this time.
Mhm.
Um, I had dated a lot of furries, but I myself was not a furry. At least I was not aware that I was a furry.
Mhm.
So I applied to Anthrocon, half expecting to not get picked, half expecting to get completely blown off. And then, like a week before Anthrocon, I was in a Telegram group called Anthrocon DJs, and I was like, yeah. So I got the email saying, yeah, you're gonna play Saturday night at Anthrocon. And I was like, all right, where's Anthrocon? So so that was the first major like, okay. So I literally called up my best friend and our two friends. I'm like, hey guys, you want to take a trip to Pittsburgh? And they're like, why? And I'm like, I'll tell you when we get there. So we pile in the car on Thursday night and we book a hotel that Wednesday and we drive to Pittsburgh. We get there, we get to the DoubleTree. DoubleTree's overbooked, so they move us to a hotel for one night, like 5 miles out of the city. But we get there. Uh, we go to the DJ events on Thursday night because Hark was a friend. I wanted to support Hark. And so we get there, right? And after walking into the convention center, my friends are asking, what are we doing? I'm like, okay, so since we're here now and you guys can't really like run away, this is like one of the largest furry conventions and we're doing a thing. And everyone was like, kind of stunned silence. I'm like, yeah, that's what I expected. But everyone was on board, so we went to the event and did the whole thing. Uh, Friday rolled around. We got our first experience with Anthrocon proper, which having never been to like a convention prior to that, was quite jarring for all four of us. Because you walk into a convention center and you just see like fursuits as far as the eye can see. Like it's a lot. It's a lot to take in when you've never seen it. So we go through, and I'll never forget. We're walking through the market, and my best friend Phoenix, poor Phoenix. Phoenix is a very good-hearted soul. He genuinely cares about people. So I want you to know that before I tell this story.
Yeah.
But essentially, we're walking through the market, and Phoenix overhears a couple of furries telling another furry that they're trash. Now, unbeknown to Phoenix, this is sometimes a term of endearment. So
Okay.
Phoenix, being the good-hearted, genuinely caring about people person that he is, runs over to this furry who must have been very confused and was like, "Hey, it's not cool to call somebody trash. It's not okay." And the three of them looked at him like he had three heads, because like obviously to them this was just like whatever.
Like a
And
joke
then
in
I had to
general.
pull, yeah,
Like
and I had to pull
just joking
Phoenix
around.
aside later. Yeah, I pulled Phoenix aside a couple minutes later. I'm like, "Hey, bud. So, just an FYI, that is a perfectly acceptable, like, normal thing that you will hear." And he's like, "Oh." And Phoenix was really embarrassed and went over and apologized, and it was all cool. But I'll never forget that, like, he legitimately ran over, thinking he was saving this poor kid from being bullied, and ended up looking like an idiot. Which is why I say, like, you gotta know that he has a good heart. But we do that. We do the market. Um, it was awkward for me at first because I was booked as UltraPup, and this will be the only time really that I'll talk about it. But I was going to DJ in a pup hood for Anthrocon. It's part of
Mhm.
why I applied.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a big deal because it hadn't been done as often. Um, and so there was some awkwardness because of that. There was definitely, I don't want to say animosity, right? Because that's not the right word.
Mhm.
But some awkwardness in the air because nobody knew who I was, and you know, I would have felt the same way if a furry had come into a pub event and was trying to DJ in a furhead, right? Like it wasn't, it's territorial, right? Like you want to be protective because it's a safe space.
Yeah.
And so I went up to DJ, and a lot of my friends who were there very supportive. I was very nervous. It was Saturday night. I was opening Saturday night, and I didn't really know what to expect. I knew one thing about furries, which was that it was very big meme culture. So I knew going in I was going to play Sandstorm. I didn't know when I was going to play it, but I knew I was going to play it, which has become a running joke now for everybody that knows me in the fandom. Um, but I do my set. I play Sandstorm. It goes really well. And then as I'm walking up the stage, a couple people were like, "You're a furry now, right?" I'm like, "What now?" They're like, "Yeah, well, you DJed Anthrocon, like, you're good with music. You basically are been to a furry convention. Like, you were claiming you for the community. You're a furry now." And then a year and a half, 2 years later, here I am, full furry trash. I've come full circle. So like it really was an incredible experience because after Anthrocon, I think I went to every convention that was happening that year all the way through and
Oh
DJ'd
my
95%
gosh.
of them. Like
That,
that year I DJ'd IFC, I was booked to DJ TFF, I DJ'd for Philadelphia. I'm trying to think of it for Apocalypse. Basically everything that happened after that I was DJing at for that year, and then I took a break. Um
that
so
sounds
it
like a
was a
lot.
whole thing.
Yeah, that sounds like
Yes.
a lot of DJing. Oh my gosh.
Um,
That's amazing. So you start just from Anthrocon. You're like, now from this day forward, I will DJ. I'm gonna DJ at every convention.
well, I fell in love. I
Yeah.
100% fell in love with the fandom. Like I was like, these are my people. I felt after my set, I felt a lot of love and appreciation for just being who I was, and there was just a lot of communication, and it really made me feel super welcoming, and so much so that basically any convention I went to after that, anytime I had an issue with somebody giving me problems for wearing a pup hood, right? Like the staff was immediately there to pick me back up. So it was for me. It gave me a chance to make a lot of friends. Like I cannot tell you how many friends I have now since I've become a furry. It's been life changing, and that Anthrocon event literally changed my entire DJ career by having me create Lobo with Pilot like that. Without Anthrocon, I can't say that I would be where I'm at without in my DJ career right now. I really can't.
It just shows how special it is, like this community and what it is and what it has to offer for everybody, regardless of the background you have prior to being a part of this community and stuff. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like kind of like that's kind of like the reason why I love it so much too, because like you can just be anybody. You can just be anybody from like out of nowhere. It's like, all right, I'm really interested in getting to know this like community and stuff. So I like just join like a Discord, or you join like a group chat or something like that, and you'd be like, hey, I'm really interested. I really want to know more about this. Like people in open arms will just be like, okay, hey, this is what it's all about. This is why I joined. If you like it, I mean, it's cool. Like it's a cool way to like express yourself. It's a really creative, like a really good creative outlet, along with music too. Like for you, for instance, too. Like you're able to express your love for your and passion for music, and also like do like conventions and stuff. Like it's really awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So to answer your original point, which is, so I became a furry and I met a bunch of people in Philadelphia and I got involved with them. And so, as everybody is aware, unless you've been living under a rock, which at this point I would like to join you in that rock. Like this is COVID has kind of changed the game, right? So this year, I headed up running Virtual Philadelphia. I took the lead on that. And I have a lot of friends who ran virtual cons for like Furthermore or for basically for Apocalypse, basically all of the conventions. I have known somebody involved in running some aspect of the virtual side of it. And what I can tell you is that these virtual conventions have been literally just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Because there wasn't really a game plan going in. So with Virtual Philadelphia, we knew that we were going to do certain things, but we didn't know how we were going to get there. And what I think you're going to see happen is this virtual aspect of cons isn't going to stop when the world goes back to normal. I think that you're looking at potentially of what's going to turn into a new way of engaging people in conventions. So not everybody can fly to Chicago to go to MFF, right? But they could 100% from the comfort of their home be part of a virtual aspect component of that. So what I think this has done has opened up new avenues for us to get creative, because that's one of the things we do best in the very fandom is be creative, right? We like to push boundaries and do things that when people tell us no you can't, we say watch us, right? Like that's one of our shining aspects.
Definitely.
So I think that like when we did Virtual Philadelphia, we people think that it was this super warm up thing. We didn't know what we were doing. Half the time in the room that things were on fire. Like it was literally like we were just trying to get through it, because you just don't know what's gonna happen with a virtual con. Like for God's sakes, AWS could go down, and if you're doing a virtual convention and AWS goes down, you can't do anything about that. Like literally, you are just kind of sitting around twiddling your thumbs until AWS comes back. And I can say that because my partner works at AWS and I know for a fact this has happened. So like, when we ran Virtual Philadelphia, we did virtual dances, and now looking at it potentially having to do a virtual con again this year, we have a game plan that we're going to expand upon. But we did build we basically modeled the entire hotel in VRChat, built the entire thing in VRChat, like a scale model. So we did a whole thing with Virtual Philadelphia. We had a lot of panels, and that's exactly what it is. Our goal was going into the virtual convention was to attempt to try to mimic as much as possible the actual experience. But what I will tell you surprised me the most is that I don't think you need to mimic. I think it's its own independent thing, and I think that that's okay. If that makes sense.
No, that definitely makes sense. I think what you're getting at is like, I feel like this would be a really good way, if even after the pandemic's finally over, like everyone's all good and stuff, like this could be a really good way. If people can't actually like go to the conventions, they can go virtually, so they have their own experience as well, whether VR or actually in person. This could be a really good potential thing where like you can do both ways. Like if you can't go to the con, you can just do it in the VR version of it. Like that could be like a huge game changer to conventions for like forever, I guess. I think.
Yeah, and what it does is it's not just like for the convention. You look big picture, like it opens up new avenues for vendors to make money by selling their product in a virtual space, so they can move more product than they would in just in person. It enables artists to get their art in front of more people. It basically expands to people who normally would not have the means. Like, let's just take Philadelphia, for example. People who are in England or Russia or Spain or wherever could come to virtual Philadelphia and be a part of the experience and see all of that our marketplace has to offer without ever having to pay for a flight to get there. And that's a game changer. It completely changes the game completely. It opens up so many new things to be creative with, where we could potentially look at something like running a European block of programming that works with European hours, where our in-person attendees wouldn't be going, but our virtual attendees in Europe could have things they could do as well. So it really is so many possibilities that I think we're just tapping the potential of with this.
Definitely. Like yeah, like not only yeah, like you said, like with artists and stuff, like with the dealers dens and stuff. I've noticed that going to a lot of those virtual conventions, like they're able to have the opportunity to be able to promote their art, even though we have the circumstance where you're not able to go to the actual like real life convention. So it's like a really great way to both expose other artists in our community to other people that may have not have heard of them before, and also like with music. So like they have DJ set lists and they have events for that too. So those artists or musicians can actually like, you know, expose other people to what they have to offer too, whether at the actual convention or in a virtual convention. So it's like such a like the possibilities for this are endless, essentially, like for all the different things that you could do with it.
Yeah, it really that's what's great about having a blank canvas like this, right? It's that it's it opens up a lot of creative things, and you're only going to get more creative with it the more you do it. So in a lot of ways, yes, COVID has sucked and will continue to suck, but I try to find good things in things that are awful. And one of the good things is that we've now been given the chance to change what we've just been doing consistently for the last, I don't know, 20 years or whatever. So it's a whole new chapter that potentially could be explored and opened.
Definitely, I think so too. Um, but we're reaching the end of the interview. I was gonna ask you if you have any like tips or advice to any of the viewers out there about DJing and like what they should do if they want to end up becoming a DJ or something someday, I guess.
Sure. So first and foremost, be patient. These things don't happen overnight. One of the biggest things I hear from people who want to become DJs when they talk to me is that they expect to have immediate success right away. And that's just not usually how it works. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice. You will get used to being told no a lot, and that's okay. You have to remember that you are your biggest fan. So if you really want to pursue this, first off, do not go and buy incredibly expensive equipment. You do not buy an intro controller, see if you like it. If you like it, then slowly work your way up. As far as actually pursuing it, don't be afraid to work at events to work your way up. So I'll give you an example. The co-owner of Lobo Lights Out Barks Out, which is the event we run in Chicago and DC, is very unusual as a YouTuber himself and stripes and a furry. He started off our events as one of my best friends and like helping out, and is now the co-owner and DJs for us. And that happened because he would just show up and be like, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? So if you really want to take it seriously, go out, go to clubs, but don't go to clubs to party. Listen to what the DJs do, listen to how they mix, take notes, network like crazy, and if you are truly committed, send your demo out like crazy and just go for it. Like, the worst thing that people can say is no, and if they say no, you're just back to where you were. So just continue to put your head down, grind away, but understand that it is a hard life. It is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of patience, a lot of effort. and a lot of understanding that these things take time.
That's definitely something that could be said for a lot of things too. I definitely agree with you on that. Like, if you work hard enough for something and you put the time, you put the effort into it, you can definitely accomplish anything if you do, you know, if you just work hard and stuff. Because it's like for that, like, it's a goal. Like, I want to become a big DJ someday, so I have to find all of these different ways and that I can improve on my DJing, or like how I can get myself exposed to other people and gain those connections, so that way I can eventually get to where I want to be, kind of thing. So
100%.
that's really great advice for sure. I think that's amazing. That's really good stuff for sure. So with that, I think we're gonna end this episode with UltraPup. UltraPup, it was a really awesome time. I had a really awesome time talking to you and interviewing you and talking about all this amazing stuff that you have. Like, it's really awesome. Like, I think it's really crazy. Like, you know, like, you've only been DJing for 2 years, and now you're like extremely well known in our community for DJing at conventions and other stuff. So it was a really good time. I had a really good time talking to you.
Thank you for having me. I really had a blast.
It's awesome. So with that, guys, we're going to end the video here. Hope you guys come check us out next week as well, where we're going to interview someone else. And with that, I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.